We have no members of the public in, so you agree to skip that? You agree to skip that one? We've got no members of the public in. Anybody second that? Any apologies for absence?
Present chair.
Oh, thank you. Oh, please.
This is not on the.
Any, where are we? Disclosures of interest and grants of dispensations.
I've received none, Chair.
None. The minutes of the previous committee funding subcommittee. The minutes of the previous meeting held the 10th of June 2025 were agreed as a true record in the full council meeting held in the 17th of July 2025. All agreed on the meeting?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Agenda 4 is a decision report on the Blythe Food Bank donation. This one started earlier in the year, where the donation was agreed by the previous council to be carried on every 6 months. Any comments on that one? Yeah.
I just wanted to make the point again about the £5,000. Did this include the discretionary? Was it a discretionary £5,000 that it was decided between the council? Obviously, if it's 5,000 every 6 months,
Yeah.
so therefore they're getting £10,000 a year. So I just think that it should come back in line with £5,000 a year.
Thank
That's
you.
all right. Yeah.
So come.
It's just nothing. You mean to, I couldn't buy 5,000 a year?
Yeah.
Well, if I may, I mean, I wouldn't agree with that simply because the need out there now is greater than ever. And I know because I donate to another food bank and families are struggling so much. And I think at this time to cut the budget would just not be in line with what's actually happening to people out there. And people have struggled so much even to find uniforms for their kids to send to school. Everybody's not that fortunate. Food is so expensive. You can go into any one of the local shops and we all know how much our food bills have increased over the last few months. Can you imagine how it is for people who are struggling with a couple of kids, even those that are in work? And I think it would be totally inappropriate for at this moment in time to even think of cutting that particular budget. Maybe looking at it in the future, but not coming into the winter months when it's desperately needed, and it is desperately needed. So I think we need to think of those as less fortunate than ourselves when we're making this kind of decision.
Can I follow up on that?
Councillor Nicholson first.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, what, you know, I don't think it's like, you know, if this 5,000 goes ahead now, it's not actually cutting the budget. I do think that there shouldn't be one charity that gets priority over any of the other charities. And when you do look at the Blythe Food Bank and the paperwork that they've put in, if you've read it, they do say that the need has dropped at the moment, just to keep it balanced and fair.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I was going to say something. I mean, Elaine's going to come in as well. And if it's anything different, I'll come in to say.
This isn't the application from the food bank, and the financial information should be redacted now from the recording in the minutes, because that's only to be discussed in the closed part of the meeting. But this isn't the application from the food bank, which will be considered in the next agenda item and then in part 2. This is a decision of the town council that was taken in February 2024 to give a 6 monthly donation to the food bank, and every 6 months that comes back to town council to be reconsidered based on the need and after a funding visit. So it's not the application to consider.
Okay, so the application.
Is
See,
separate.
keep that separate, but yeah, so I still agree with Natalie that, yeah, you know, this one here, for them to come back after the 6 months one, for it to agree for it to be a ruling thing, I do sort of disagree with, because we should just follow them. I'm not saying cut it. I'm just saying, you know, let's work with them. If they're not in need of it next time, you know, then, you know, another charity will benefit. But if they are in real need for it, because they're seeing a rise in numbers, so I think it should be reviewed each year, not, you know, for not every 6 months for the 10,000.
As well, someone that if it's thought that the food bank should be limited in any funding that they get, it has been a council decision. This committee cannot really overturn a council decision. It would have to go back to council. You'd have to consider a report about the food bank and how you look forward in their funding. So, you know, that's a different scenario altogether.
So we'll leave that one as it is until we agree on this. Or it's already agreed.
Or two.
Or to discuss it more.
Sorry,
I just asked a question here, is this just an automatic £5,000 payment without a vote? Just automatically goes.
Roll on, yeah.
It's written with the last full council meeting.
yeah, the way it was set up was that the previous council thought that the food bank should be given a donation of £5,000 every 6 months, subject to review. Obviously, the feelings has been that they still need the £5,000. But if there's thoughts that it should be curtailed and you want to change the policy, you cannot change the policy of this committee. You could defer it at this committee, pending a full discussion of council. Or you could give the 5,000.
The way I say it at the moment is that I haven't made an application at the moment this year. So the £5,000 should be awarded. And the next one, we're going to have another full council meeting, and that should be voted with the next full council meeting.
If I may, Chair, just a point of clarity for Councillor Johnson, there's 2 items here to be considered this evening for Blythe Food Bank. One is the decision report of the £5,000 that was committed by council to be paid every 6 months, subject to review. And then there's a separate application to be considered from the food bank for additional funding. There's the 2 items. Yeah. Only one application. One is the decision from the council that a donation would be paid every 6 months, subject to review. And that review is taking place now, where you consider whether to proceed with paying that £5,000 or not. And then there's an application to consider from them as well, where they've laid out their case and the financial information.
Yeah.
Can we leave that till item 5? Finish off item 4.
Finish off item 4 the same way.
Okay. Just finish off item 4. Move on to item 5.
No, sorry, Chairman. What is the decision of the members on item 4? What's the motion? If there's a disagreement with what we've recommended, as officers, to the committee to vote on, are you coming back with an alternative that you can then vote on for us to take forward in some way?
Now, then that would be taken part in a different meeting, wouldn't it?
I mean, the
Sorry,
when was the last 5,000? I'm just a bit confused there, because you got resolve and make a further donation of 5,000, and I appreciate what you're saying, basically, 14 and 5. So when was the last 5,000?
February.
February. So if we make another one, that's 5,000, around about now, plus possibly another 5,014. So if we resolve in item 4 in the agenda, to continue giving them the 6 monthly 5,000.
Yeah.
Get 5,000 tonight or tomorrow, and then in item 40, if we agree that, that's 10,008.
There's not two applications in.
Well,
Now, there's only one application in, but this is just a rolling one. Item 4 is a rolling one, we're resolving.
From previous meetings.
Yeah, further donation, but how is it a further donation if it's already been agreed with every 6 months? That's where I'm confused.
Yeah.
without them putting, that's two different things. The previous council agreed that at the point in time, they agreed that £5,000 of payment that the food bank should receive every 6 months. That's separate to any grant applications in agenda item 514.
It's coming out of the community fund, the same
Yeah.
pot though.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, the last council's chosen to favour one charity over another charity in that pot. Is what we're saying.
Well, the council determined the food bank was a charity that needed funding at the time.
With the discretionary fund, or was it just?
It was a
Divided
divided
into-
fund at the time, yes. Because,
No, it came out of the community grants pot of 173,000 that were referred to earlier. Yeah, that's the physical code where it comes from.
Okay.
Councillor Jones.
I think obviously what we're saying is that was an agenda item on the 13th of February 2024, and it wasn't necessarily the discretionary part of that meeting. It was an agenda item of that we discussed, and yes, it's a 6-month review, so the council assessed the need, bring it to us. At this stage, they've said to resolve in making the donation. It's up to the committee to say yes or no. If we say yes to this, you can bring it back to a full council meeting to not do the 6-month review in 6 months' time. It is separate to that item that's later on, which is the application, purely because at that time, the need was very high and they were needing donations more than ever at that time. It was agreed. I think we need to forget about the application later on and then just discuss that in itself, and discuss this one. Obviously, it's the first time this council's discussing it, so I do understand it's not ideal that the second one is on at the same time, obviously, that we're discussing it. I would obviously be inclined to agree to what the council has suggested this time, and then if anyone's wanting to look into it again, it'd be on a different agenda. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that just
Did you want to speak?
Well, I don't think Barry's speaking first, or he wishes to.
just to clarify, because so that would be, if we resolve to make a further donation, that would be this year. So we're getting £5,000 in February, £5,000 resolving this one, and potentially £5,000 from 14 to depending on what the order is. So that would be 15,000. Is that my understanding?
No.
Well, in the calendar year,
Yeah, this year.
yes, but in our accounts,
Yeah.
it would be, this is the first 5,000 in this year's accounts. As the accounts start in.
I get that, yes.
But just to clarify what I was trying to say before, and I think what Caitlin was trying to touch on with all respect. If you've got a couple of decisions here. At least, but you could either, if you disagree with the principle of giving them £5,000 every 6 months in accordance with the previous council decision, you can't go to a council and change that decision. Or you can just look at this and say, yes, we agree with it, or you can look at it, because it is a review, it is a recommendation. The recommendations that were paid. But if you can look at that resolution and say, have a vote and say, well, do we agree or do we disagree? So you've got a few things to think of there. And then the one in 14, 514 is entirely separate. That shouldn't have any bearing on this one. Okay.
So just a thought that came back into my head, and councillors may disagree with what I was thinking from previously. I think when we made this decision, it was a recommendation because councillors were using small schemes funds to support the food bank. So it was decided that we'd support as a council rather than small schemes funds. Because there was quite a few individual councillors, and then that meant that rather than that 1,000 pot of small schemes fund going to the food bank from individual members, it was a council decision. And then it didn't come from the small schemes funds. Obviously, from the previous meeting, that has changed. So if that impacts this, then that might be what it is. That made sense in my head, but I don't think it made sense outside my head, so I apologise.
Nicholson.
Yeah, just to be clear, Malcolm, I mean, if they're claiming 5,000 every 6 months in the financial year, yes? Are you saying that that would be then 10,000 per year? Or would it be the 10,000 per year plus what they're already asking for? That's
Yes. Can I? The food bank aren't claiming the £5,000. There was an identified need and the town council committed to donating that £5,000 every 6 months, subject to review. So it comes back and you consider whether there's a need for it or not. And the report gives a recommendation after a visit to the food bank where we talk to the volunteers, gather statistics from them, have an update on their expenditure, etc. The only funding the food bank are requesting from the town council or the community funding committee is the application. Any previous donations that have been agreed by members' small schemes have been agreed with the individual councillors and then approved, but it may have come about from councillors offering the funding to them. I don't know.
So like,
I don't know whether they've applied to the councillors for funding or whether the councillors have offered them the funding.
The latter.
Yeah, so
Just in plain speak, I sort of understand exactly what we're talking about here. They're going to get 10,000 a year, one way or another, and they put in an additional request for 5,000, so that makes £15,000.
No. They only get the 10,000 if the council, or the committee agrees to pay them it in 5,000 tranches once every 6 months. They received 5,000 in February because the report similar to this came to the committee, and the committee said, yes, we accept the recommendation of the report, we'll grant £5,000 to the food bank. This report this evening, you have the choice of saying, yes, we follow the recommendation and donate £5,000, or no, we resolve not to give them the £5,000. So it's not guaranteed that they get £10,000. And then there's a separate application for funding that they have applied for that you will be considering.
Should this not have been,
15,000. The way I see it is £15,000, and that, if we don't turn around and say no, and then not accept their application, then it'll be 10,000. But if we turn down their application for 5,000 and agree on the normal rule, then it'll be 10,000. If we agree on the both, it'll be £15,000.
so what you're saying is should have worded it differently every 7 months, so you're getting it twice a year. But you wouldn't, would you? No, you wouldn't.
Every 6 months, yes.
Every 6 months. Got off the Viking calendar. Yeah. Deirdre, I hand up before.
No, I've lost the line of thought, carry on. I was thinking of David, you when you're 14 months,
So the way
it'll come back to us.
the way I understand it is the February one that they've just claimed isn't in this financial year.
No.
So they haven't had 5,000, that was last year.
Yes.
So this, in the next, community funding, it'll be, the first claim of the financial year.
Mhm.
What we're doing in this meeting is that they can come back within this financial year for another 5,000.
Mhm.
So in total, per financial year, it will be 10K unless, it would only be more if somebody puts in from the community, personal community pot.
Yeah, if I'm just clarify, they don't actually ask us for the £5,000. They've never asked us for any £5,000 donations. It was a council decision that we would give them £5,000, subject to it being approved by this committee. The only thing they have asked for in recent years, in fact, I think it's the first time they've actually asked for any money, I think, is a generator 540. That's the only time they've physically come to the council for money. May be corrected, but I can never think of an application from them.
It's come back to us. So if we give them the 5,000 tonight, my understanding is in 6 months' time, we can look at it and say, you're not getting 5,000 because you've had 5,000 in September.
Depending on the review.
And that's dependent, yes,
Yeah.
whichever way it is.
Yeah.
That's how fit, then within the financial year, the next 5,000, we can accept it or reject it. Is that kind of what it is?
Yeah,
Exactly.
as you can tonight.
Yes.
As you can tonight.
As it
It's a
stands tonight.
recommendation.
Thumbs up, yeah.
So obviously with agenda number 4, what we're discussing now, forget about the extra one, what they're putting on the next one. Are we going to support it, giving them £5,000, what's rolling on every 6 months? That's all we need to vote.
That you need to vote on.
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
And I think you put a proposal in, didn't you?
Well, this is the proposal.
Yes, but I thought you.
So yes, you don't have to.
Inclination.
Yeah, an inclination, but I don't, we were all going around in circles. So yes, I am happy to propose that we accept the council's
Donation.
Leave it the way it is.
donation. And then,
Review.
which it says, and review in 6 months' time.
Second.
That's simple.
Yeah.
So come March,
Yeah.
come March, we can.
Get to speak the whole of it.
Pause and it's not second.
You're right.
Send.
Okay, can we, Daniel, did you want to speak?
It was just to get back on the actual reasons why we do this is, remember, what is it Croft or Coogan got that most poverty stricken residents in Blythe?
Yeah.
And this, as far as I can remember, Chair, the food bank never asked us for money because previous 2 councillors always supported them with their own funding that they had in their personal schemes. So it was actually a shock to see them asking for money. But I would say, which I have them, and be honest, when I first became councillor in 2017, I was like yourselves in saying that why do we give out money to these groups when it should be reinvested in other areas? Why do they keep coming? Why do we keep giving them money? Because are they paying staff? It was always staff I was concerned about paying for until you actually physically go down and see some of the poverty-stricken homes that I've seen. People how desperate some of them are. And honestly, the food bank themselves, the work they do, I admit I was blind with because I came from a middle class background. And I've been trying for the last 8 years to realise how important life food bank are. And because of the work that the one previous councillor did with this particular group, he felt personally that the group should be supported. And this wasn't them asking for the money. He just felt that because they were so desperate all the time, and because the food bank were always asking for money and they were so desperate, we were putting out leaflets and notice boards to make sure our residents were specifically giving them certain items that they needed. So this was the reason I agreed it all those months ago, was to say that here's the money, don't even ask us. It meets the objectives of the town council to support the worst off in this town. And that's the reason I will always say that the worst off in Blythe, we should always help them and we shouldn't not give them the money because we can give money to charities, but to a group such as the Blythe Food Bank, the work they do is phenomenal. Thank you, Chair.
If I may, Chair, I mean, at the end of it all, it's people that donate on a weekly basis, that donation itself has dropped dramatically because people can no longer afford to actually donate like they used to with, you know, tomatoes and pastas and all kinds of toiletries and stuff like that. People just can't afford, so that they're dependent so much on donations like this. And yes, they may have money in the bank, and I think maybe in March, if need be, come back and look at it in March. But because we're going into the winter months, and this is, you know, as I said before, the greatest need is in the winter months. Nobody wants to know that the child going to bed hungry because we sit here and decide to cut their funding.
Thank you very much.
I'm not on this committee, but I was just wondering if I could say a few words, can I?
Certainly.
I just can't remember if it was me or Warren who was the chair of the committee. And we agreed, we talked about it, we agreed about it and said that we can donate £5,000 every 6 months if possible. They didn't have any say in the matter, it was the council. The council has agreed, they had a vote, it was unanimous that would give them £10,000 a year and split up. And if that was a decision after 6 months that we didn't need it, that we missed 5,000 that time and go into the next time. But it was going to be continuous. And we went round and seen them last year, and there was they've got about 30 volunteers, and it's an absolutely brilliant thing they're doing. And you can't believe how many people are getting money off, getting stuff off the food bank. And I just think it should be kept on. And that's my thoughts.
Thank you very much. To change it anyway, we'll have to go to a full council meeting. Anyway, but like I said, personally, I think we should keep it going for now until we get a review. We'll take a vote on that. On Caitlin's proposal. We'll take a vote on Caitlin's proposal, please.
It's for agree.
As to agree.
You been supported or not?
I'm on this committee.
Oh, no, you're not. Agree. Thanks for reminding me.
Agree anyway.
What's going back to the seminar review in March? Yeah.
So you used to have insurance, your things, I mean, this and this and that.
We'll go to agenda 5. Yeah, we've all had the paperwork for this one. Hello? We'll skip to agenda 5. We've all had the paperwork on these ones. Item 1 was the Bede Academy deferred from community funding subcommittee meeting dated the 10th of June 2025. Item 2 is Escape Family Support. Item 3 is the Isabella Community Association Limited. Item 4 was the Isabella Heap Volunteer Group. Item 5 was the Royal British Legion Blythe Branch. Item 6 was the Wisecracking Promotions. Item 7 was Headway Arts on behalf of the Culture Network. Item 8 was Blythe Battery Volunteers Limited. Item 9 was Fresh Creative Aspirations CIC.
Thank you.
Item 10 was St Cuthbert's Church Blythe. Item 11, River Blythe Boating Association. Item 12, Blythe Valley Enterprise Limited. Item 13, Belford Bright Sparks. And item 14, what we just spoke about, was Blythe Food Bank. This is to consider the funding.
Good idea, Chair. Let's move them all and go.
Money for that.
No. Okay. We'll start off with the Beer Academy, which is item 1.
Just, you've got delegated actions, date and time, and then you've got to officially resolve to move into a closed session to consider the.
All right. Delegated actions. On. Agenda 7 is a date and time of next meeting. The next meeting of the Community Funding Subcommittee will be held in the Council Chamber, Arms Aberdeen House, on Tuesday, the 11th of November, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. We go to part 8, agenda 8, part 2. Pursuant to the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, that in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, it is advisable in the public interest that the press and the public be excluded, and they are instructed to withdraw.